Welcome to a Gran Turismo 6 time trial tutorial for the 627 Performance Point NASCAR only event at Indianapolis Road Course. This is for the newest running of this event, but if you have a tune that you like that you used in the old running of this event, that will work perfectly fine for the new one as well. I posted my tune on GTPlanet if you want to see it. This is the tune I used to run this lap. But there's a whole heck of a heap of good tunes out there for NASCARs. So I'll go ahead and get into the lap, because my tune is on GTPlanet if you want to see it. As for my lap, as of recording this at about 2-ish p.m. on Friday afternoon, August 11th, I am 20th in the world and first among controller users. And I know some people think this is iffy, but I did use one on traction control. But I'm all for taking away all the aids, but just so everybody has it taken away. If they're there and they make me go faster, I'll use it. I know, teach their own on if it makes them individually go faster, but it does for me, so... And if they're there, I'll use them if it makes me go faster, but I prefer them not to be, but that's a whole different argument. This is a video just to make y'all go fast, whatever y'all want to do to go fast. Good for you. This is how I did it. And I am the fastest controller as of now, so... to each their own, I guess. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get into it. This one will probably be relatively long, so... If you have any just individual turns that you ain't all that good at for this track, just go more to that point in the video. But I'll go ahead and do it for all of this track, which is a relatively long track in terms of turns. But anyway, here we go, folks. To start off, to the run up to the lap, it's about as easy as you're going to get. As long as you get a good run off that final turn that's a legit turn that you actually have to like do stuff for. Generally a little over 70 miles an hour you get a good run off, then just it's an oval. There's no slowing down through there, just full throttle through the last like right-handed turn. It'll be left-handed on the main oval and then to the line. And then I'll go ahead and go into the lap itself after the run-up there. Annoyingly, in GT6, it doesn't actually show the run-up as good as Sport does, because Sport, you can just save your stuff and with the share function, and 6, you just save the best lap replay, which it doesn't show the run-up. But whatever. For slowing down here, make sure that you memorize where the little camera thingamajigget, I really don't know what that is, but it's pretty visible. Just memorize where that is and keep track of it, because pretty much right after you get to that, you want to start slowing down. It's not as like direct right after it, but like maybe a quarter second or something after it. Practice makes perfect on that. Pretty much just remember slightly after. And then for the next turn, go as close as you can to that little tire bundle thingy. And I don't really think you have to worry about red lapping through this turn, because that tire thing is there, so I don't think you could physically overrun it because you just hit that tire thing. So just go as much on that side rumble strip as you can. And for the next turn, really for all turns, the rumble strips are perfectly fine to use. The car acts fine on them, which is realistic because these are all lowered rumble strips. And this, honestly, is where I think traction control sort of makes me go faster. Because I can pretty much just focus on, like, getting the car to hit the apexes through here. And NASCARs spin the tires a whole heck of a heap. So, I mean, I admit I ain't an alien. I mean, I have the fastest controller, so I'm pretty early into it, but I guarantee Immortal Pilot and people like that can go way crazily faster through here, which is why I always recommend watch the leaders replays too. GT Sport, GT6, any other game there is, because combining what they do 100% as good as possible with what I do more in depth can definitely help your lap as a whole. But anyway, for the next turn, just go out wide here so you can get a good angle in. There's really not much for breaking points through here. I guess you can attempt to count those holes, but you have to be really good at that kind of memory technique to do that. I just sort of, the way I do a lot of laps is just run it to the point of once I get it down, I just try to muscle memory remember it, and it just sort of kind of works. Different people have different ways of doing it. But anyway, once you are braked for this turn, go a little bit over 70 once you start accelerating. And I know I ain't all that close to apex here, but for whatever reason, maybe it's not all in all faster, but it seems to be for me. It actually works not to be much on the apex there, because you can take a wider line out and carry more speed and actually all in all get closer to the next, not really apex because it ain't a corner, but as far out as the track will go. So that way I'm carrying more speed, because this turn, the more far out you are, the more chance you have of taking it full throttle, and the more far out you are in general, the more speed you can take. So if you take this turn full throttle on the apex, at least for me, it makes up for not being on the apex on the turn before. Teach their own again, practice whatever you can do best, and then make it as best as you can do it, but still, that's what works for me. For this next turn, brake a little bit after that shadow there. This turn is another one where you don't really need to be on the apex to start it off, because more of a run out again. This is where traction control is sort of kind of helping me too, because I tried it without, and this is sort of a section where it's a big long turn, and the more you try to feather the throttle, generally the looser the car gets. So it's one of those, it's a really fun turn to drift, but you don't want to drift in a time trial. So yeah. And for the next turn, sort of like the others, go out and then just into the apex there. This is another turn where hitting the apex is kind of whatever type of run you want to take, but I do pretty much get on it here, because even though there's a whole heck of a heap of width of track here, it seems like anything beyond the rumble strips there, even though it is concrete, it doesn't have as much grip. So I don't really use all that too much. You do carry more speed if you do use that, but there's also less grip, so it's riskier. So whatever works for you again there as well. For this little bit, just easy full throttle here. For the next turn, you want to brake right at the shadow, which is easy enough. That's visible. And then when you brake right at the shadow, you sort of go where it's not much margin for error to like trail brake or whatever. This is pretty much just full on completely braking, but it does indeedy dandy work. Pretty much once you got on the brakes as much as possible, just throw throttle out if you are using traction control. This is another turn where I think traction control helps me, because I want to get my car stable so I can get it into the next turn good, because, well, I'll tell you what, I'm more there. For this turn in general, it's kind of awkward, because in every turn you sort of want to go out than in, but by default, the way it's set up, it's kind of hard to go on the outside for this turn, because your car angles out to the what would end up being the inside for this turn out of the last turn. So, and that's one of those, practice it to where you can get it the best as possible, but don't really kill your lap over one turn trying to make it on the outside, but then making the previous turn terrible. So again, this is definitely a practice turn, but this is where the only part of the track where I think traction control might hurt. It's really no big deal in this little short shoot here, but it does sort of kind of hurt around this turn, because I've tried this turn without traction control, and it's honestly sort of kind of hard to do, because this is sort of a drift turn too. But where it ain't really all that long, if you want to brave it and attempt it, this is where you're going to gain a lot of time not using traction control. But the other parts of the track, it's kind of sort of risky with the longer turns. So you might be able to make it up here, but even getting here in the first place without traction control is 1.5 feet right yonder. So if you want to brave it and practice it, good for you. I might try to run it without traction control if it's just definitely faster, like obviously faster with a controller. I would probably run everything without traction control if I had a wheel, because it's a lot easier feathering the throttle with a pedal than it is with the X button. So, yeah. But nonetheless, this works decently enough. I'm not losing tons of time, but I noticed when I put the leader's lap in the Ghost, this was the area where I was losing the most time. I generally lost 3 to 4 tenths, and that was before Immortal ran his lap. Now it's probably 5 or 6 tenths. He's an alien and a half through here, but anyway, the other sections, it was generally only 2 or 3. This was like 3 or 4. So, yeah, for this turn, though, this is pretty much going to be one of the more important turns of the lap. Annoyingly, it's the last legit turn of the lap, so... Well, if you get here and then mess it up, that's probably going to make a lot of people mad, but honestly, it is really important because there's a whole heck of a heap of straightaway after this, so you want to get as much runoff as possible. For this, I sort of kind of trail brake, but really more than anything coast. There's actually not all that much braking here because I ain't going all that much faster into it than I need to go. This, around how much of the... in bit here you can use, it's not really rumble strip because you actually use a whole heck of a heap more than rumble strip. It's just sort of all the part of the track that ain't really pavement, how much you can use and get away with. I don't think I've used any more than this and got away with it, but again, that's where I recommend watching the leaders laps because they know exactly for every turn because they've done it thousands and thousands of miles in some cases. I have over thousands of miles on this car, but this was also a car that I used in Dirty NASCAR and a whole heck of a heap of other stuff. But anyway, around that turn, pretty much I went about 75, and then once I got off the turn, your car would naturally sort of angle out towards that rumble strip there. Again, if you messed that up, sorry, but you need to carry a lot of speed through there to get a good lap, so you're towing the line at the very end, but it's an important line to tow, so... yeah, that turn's kind of annoying, but it is definitely an important one. For the last bit, it's pretty much easy. It's what you think to do is what you do. Just go on the inside, full throttle, and your lap is pretty much done at this point. Just stay on the inside. If you know it's going to be a good lap, stay pretty much on the inside. You don't have to go over that wall. If you think this is going to be your best lap, because going over that wall loses you that little bit more time. And then across the line. As y'all can see there, I was closer to the wall to start off than when I finished, because I knew that was going to be a better lap. So, I hope y'all learned something from this. Again, I definitely do recommend watching the leaders replays as well. But I'm the leader of the controllers as of now, so I've never used a wheel, so I can't really say if you can do the lines that the wheel drivers can take and implement it to a controller, but I'd assume so. So pretty much just use what they do with what I've showed more in depth to do, and then combine that into doing as good as you can do. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all learned something from this. And as always, yeehaw!